Welcome to Pulse Check, where we have quick conversations about how to help Alabamians live healthier lives. Today's guest has spent more than 4 decades serving our country, and now he's continuing that service right here at home, supporting veterans and their families across Alabama. I'm joined by Brigadier General retired Jeff Newton, Commissioner of the Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs. Appointed by ADVA in 2025, Commissioner Newton leads efforts to serve more than 400,000 veterans across our state. Before stepping into this role, he served as Director of the Joint Staff for Alabama National Guard, overseeing military operations during state and national emergencies. His 41-year military career with the United States Air Force and the Alabama National Guard included multiple overseas deployments supporting operations like Iraqi freedom and enduring freedom. Throughout his career, he's been recognized with numerous honors, including the Air Force Distinguished Service Medal and the Legion of Merit. And in 2021, he was inducted into the Air Force's Enlisted Heritage Hall Wall of Achievers. That's a mouthful.
It is.
Today, he's focused on one mission, making Alabama the most veteran-friendly state in the nation. Commissioner Newton, thank you for your service, first of all, and thank you for being here today.
Hey, Angie, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invite. Look forward to talking to you and
I
to
think
your
it's going to be a
audience.
great conversation and
Yeah,
one that should interest a lot of people because, 400,000 veterans in the state, that doesn't include their families and their loved ones and their friends and the people that they go to church with and the people that they
right,
work with. So it's a lot of people that are impacted by how well we take care of veterans for sure.
right, right. Thank you very much. Yeah, a lot of veterans and they have a lot of needs for sure. And one of our challenges is how do we reach out to those 400,000 veterans? Because it's difficult and it's a challenging job.
Because they're all doing different things. They're in pockets. There's not, one unified spot. But you speak about challenges when veterans return home. What are some of the biggest challenges they face that maybe most people don't realize?
When a veteran returns home from a deployment, they're coming back with a lot of issues that they're reluctant to talk about, and families aren't aware of some of the issues that our veterans have or having, particularly veterans' mental health. That's a crisis that we have not only in Alabama but throughout our country, and it's a really a serious issue with our veterans. And when they come back, they're trying to adapt back from a very high operations tempo. Now they're trying to assimilate back into the civilian world and to try to get back to normal. And it's very, very difficult.
Yeah, and they are looking for those translatable skills and there's so many things now that help with that skill bridge programs and things like that. Um, what are some of the other benefits that veterans are eligible for?
Well, I think it's important to understand that a lot of veterans get us confused with the federal VA, United States Department of Veterans Affairs. And of course, we're the Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs. Our primary mission is to help our veterans receive the benefits from the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. So a lot of our veterans don't know that there's benefits both on the state side as well as the federal side. And we've got so many things going for them, but they've got to take the step forward to look at what's available to them. And there's a lot of resources out there available to them. We've got so many nonprofit veteran organizations throughout the state doing great things for our veterans, but most of our veterans aren't aware of what they are. And that's our job here at our Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs to ensure they know what's available to them.
What do you think they've missed the most, or what's the biggest, or in your mind, the most obvious benefit that you're like, man, I can't believe people aren't aware of this?
It's just the fundamental benefits from the VA. When a veteran comes back, we hear stories all the time that our veterans are reluctant to get help because they don't think they need the help. They got that stigma that, oh, I'm an infantry officer or my dad taught me to be tough. I don't need to go to the VA. So, there's just so many benefits that the VA claims is the first stop. Actually, what they should do when they come back from deployment or when they leave the service is to register with the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. Unfortunately, many of our veterans that take their life by suicide are not enrolled or registered with the United States Department of Veterans Affairs, which was kind of shocking to me. But it's over 60% of our veteran suicides. They're not registered uh,
Wow.
with the federal VA.
So they're just not really receiving any report
That's
support.
right. That's right. And they don't know what's available to them. But my suggestion is anybody getting out of the service or transitioning from the military to the civilian service, that they need to register with the United States Department of Veterans Affairs, get things started.
Well, you answered that question I was going to ask. If a veteran or family member doesn't know where to start, what is the first step that they should take? And you said make sure that they get registered. What after that? What might
Well,
come next?
they can do all this by just visiting one of our veteran service offices throughout the state of Alabama. We have 64 offices throughout the state, and that would be my first recommendation because they can help them do that registration, and they can walk them through the claims process. They can bring their spouses in, their family members, and walk them through the process of getting their claims from the United States Department of Veterans Affairs.
That's really comforting. So they could go in person because sometimes it's overwhelming to think about registering for
Oh yeah,
anything um, online alone. So they can go in, get help, and they can even bring somebody, a family member, a spouse, a child, somebody who can help them.
that's right. And all they need is to bring in is a DD Form 214, as many uh, service records that they have available to them, including their medical records. And if they don't have those records, we can help them find those records. So we're a one-stop shop for helping our veterans get what they need to get things going, to get their feet on the ground and build that foundation of getting back into the civilian world and getting it right.
Perfect. Well, what are some of the biggest misconceptions you think that people have about accessing the benefits? That it's going to take too long, that you mentioned earlier that maybe they don't need them or they wouldn't qualify for them.
Yeah, the process on the surface can be very overwhelming, especially if you're trying to do it on your own. There's nothing that says you can't go out on va.gov website and do your own claims, but we always recommend that you go by and visit one of our veteran service officers to make sure they do it correctly. They're all accredited veteran service officers. Their services are free, which is another topic I'd like to talk about. But yeah, it can be overwhelming and can be frustrating. I'll tell you that the United States Department of Veterans Affairs has really sped up their processing times. Where it used to take 4 to 6 months to get a claim processed, we're under 90 days now, which is incredible. Hasn't been that way for decades. So kudos to Secretary Doug Collins and what he's doing at the United States Department of Veterans Affairs.
That's a really big deal. That lost time, people feel discouraged sometimes, and I didn't know that it was down to under 90 days, so that's really exciting. Well, you
Yeah,
mentioned talking about the free services. I'd love to hear more about that, and then the new to me, resource center on Dexter, right here
yeah,
in
we can
Montgomery,
talk about
Alabama.
both of those. So one of the issues we have out in the world is, with any kind of federal benefit system, you're going to have fraudsters out there. And, once again, all of our services at the Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs are free. Everything we do is free. That doesn't cost anything to the veteran to come in and get the claims processed. But there are some swindlers out there that will guarantee a certain percentage of disability if you come see them, and they'll have you sign on the dotted line. And most of our claims involve a retroactive pay. You file on a certain day and it takes 2 or 3 months to get your claims back. Well, if you're awarded a claim, uh, it all gets retroactive back to the date that you filed it, and it could be several hundred thousands of dollars in some cases.
Wow.
And these claim sharks that are out there, we call it "Don't Feed the Sharks." That's our theme, along with the Veterans of Foreign Wars. But they're out there to try to get those dollars and a certain percentage of that retroactive pay, and anything else that you do in the future. So we caution our veterans. It's their money; they do what they want, but we caution them to be careful about these claim sharks that are out there trying to, rape our veterans for the money that they have earned. You mentioned the Alabama Veterans Resource Center. We're very excited about that. Now, that doesn't belong to the state. That's a public-private entity. I know with the name, it sounds like it's something that belongs to the Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs, but it doesn't. Now, we do partner with them, and they're located on 100 Dexter Avenue. But the whole idea is, as military members transition to the civilian world, you know, we have a one-stop shop there on Dexter Avenue. They can come in and start that claim process. We have two of our Montgomery County Veteran Service officers that are there that the Resource Center, they've given us the free space to operate out of. And that starts the process. But while they're there, anything else, I've talked about all the different um, nonprofit veteran organizations that are out there. Well, the Resource Center has a software platform called Unite Us. So it's in the name, and these resources that are out there will register with this software program. And as veterans come in and needing help, we can refer them initially to these other organizations throughout the state that are already providing the outstanding service to our veterans. And the whole idea, this being a hub in Montgomery, the idea is to expand into the other cities in the state, including Huntsville, maybe Birmingham, maybe Mobile, maybe down in the Wiregrass area down near Fort Rucker. So we're still waiting to see how that goes. But I'm a member of the Alabama Veterans Resource Center board. I'm the co-chair, along with Secretary Reed. He's the Secretary of Workforce for Alabama, and we work together along with 13 other members of the board. And we look forward to taking care of our veterans.
Wow.
Yeah.
So instead of necessarily reinventing the wheel, you've got everything in one spot that says these are people who help veterans. So it's a great place to start.
Right, and that's our veterans don't know what's out there, what's available to them. If they call or come into the Alabama Veterans Resource Center, all that will be provided to them. So the opportunity is there. So we call, the hubs here in Montgomery, the spokes of this hub are all the partnerships we have with all the nonprofit veteran organizations throughout the state.
How does a nonprofit find you to make sure that they are on that list that they help veterans? Or what if it's a nonprofit that just recently added some veteran services and you guys aren't aware of them yet and they should be on that resource list?
Yeah, again, it's just getting the word out to those different resources. Also, the executive director of the Alabama Veterans Resource Center, Alex Courageous, she is reaching out and speaking to all of them as much as possible that she knows of. And then, of course, it's word of mouth initially, but this is going to grow. This is going to grow
Oh
throughout
yeah.
the state. This is just the start, just the beginning, and it's going to be a great resource for all our veterans.
I love that. Thank you for that. What is one story or moment that has stayed with you from all of your work with veterans? Does anything come
Oh
to
my
mind?
gosh, there's so many good stories out there because it's a very rewarding job, especially for our veteran service officers that are out in the field. Um, we have I didn't mention this, but we do have our state cemetery down in Spanish Fort, Alabama. And one thing we do better than any other state um, is we take care of our National Guard and Reserve veterans who are not otherwise eligible for burial
Wow.
at our national cemetery, like in Montevallo, the Alabama National Cemetery in Montevallo, or Fort Mitchell. Uh, some of our National Guard and Reserve members aren't eligible either because they didn't do enough regular active duty or they just did their weekend warrior duty and then a summer camp. And they may not be eligible, but at our state cemetery down at Spanish Fort, we will inter both the veteran and their spouse at no cost. So we're one of the only states that have no fee for helping out our National Guard and Reserve veterans. And some other good news is we are building a second state Veterans Memorial Cemetery just outside of Huntsville, Alabama. So we're very excited about that. We're going through the design process right now, and it won't be long that we'll be flipping some dirt, getting it constructed. So we're excited about that. But as far as the story, going back to the National Guard and Reserve opportunity for burial, uh, I was speaking to a group of veterans one time and told them about this free resource for just our National Guard and Reserve veterans. And after I got finished briefing, I had a lady come up. She was just sobbing. I guess they were in the looking for a plot or something. Did not know about this benefit that's available to them. And she was just came up, hugged my neck, sobbing, and I said, we fixed her up and took care of things. And the good thing is about our cemeteries, you can go ahead and pre-register for burial. So that's another thing. When I go out and talk to veterans, I always tell the veterans, don't leave your family in a bind. When we lose you, they need to know where your paperwork's at. They need to know where that DD Form 214. That's the golden ticket to all your veteran benefits. The DD Form 214. But your family, we always get phone calls from family members who are in panic mode because they can't find their veteran spouse's paperwork, and they have a burial coming up in 2 days, and they don't have the paperwork. So in those cases, we can do our best to try to help the families. But as far as the story of helping our veterans, there's so many good stories out there where we help our veterans. And I was talking to you about our veteran service officers. We had a veteran he had almost a $500,000 retroactive pay not too long ago, and that changes people's lives, and it's just incredible the work that our veteran service officers are doing out in the field. In 2024, they brought in $3.6 billion of federal money into our community helping veterans. So, it's just incredible what they're doing out there.
That's amazing. That's not a number that I would have imagined.
Yeah,
Um, I knew someone who he had contacted one of those attorneys like you're speaking about,
yeah,
but he had already started a lot of his paperwork, and basically the attorney never did anything, and so he was able to retain his full benefit, and it that percentage would have made a big difference.
mhm,
To your point, if you do get that back pay and you've got to give somebody 25% of it or 30% of it, like that's a really big deal. And
yeah,
so I'm glad that those resources are free for people to be able to navigate an otherwise daunting system, even just to explain something or explain a timeline. Like, hey, it's okay. This is the normal timeline. You don't need to
right.
rush out and hire somebody else. Like, this is part of that process.
Yeah. So we're proud to help our veterans, and we didn't talk about our state veterans homes, but they are the most beautiful and the most affordable in the United States. When I say that, the most our veterans pay is $24 a day for 24/7 around the clock care. And you go out in the civilian world, you're going to pay $8,000 to $9,000 a month. And my dad, who's at the veterans home in Pell City, the Colonel Robert L. Howard Veterans Home, he pays $744 a month for all the care. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. Now we do have a one drawback is we have a list of 450 veterans waiting to get in. So everyone understands how good of a benefit it is, and but they just got to be patient. We'll get them there.
It's a big deal. If anybody's price checked that, or as you were speaking about earlier, funerals, I think those costs are around 12,000 average
Yeah,
right now. But I personally know people who have reported 25,000. The average
yeah,
is the middle, but a lot of people are spending a lot of money. So that's a great benefit to those families. And then to your point, that's around here about $8,000 monthly to take care of somebody.
right,
So that's a
right.
huge benefit.
And those are just again, a lot of the veterans they're not aware of these benefits that are available to them. So, getting the word out is what we try to do every day, you know?
Well, this is a great way to do that. And a
Yeah.
question I had for you, is there a question that you thought or hoped I'd ask but didn't? So, is there anything else? We've talked about the veterans' homes and we've talked about the funeral benefits. Is there anything in the resource centers and the hub here in Montgomery? We've talked about a lot of things. Is there anything else that you think people need to know that we haven't covered?
I've kind of brought it up already. The most fundamental advice I would give to our veterans is, again, know where your DD Form 214 is. Be able to put your hand on it, but better yet, your spouse or significant other, they need to know where it's at. Your family members need to know where it's at, because in the unlikely event it happens, or an inevitable event that something happens to you, they know what to do next, and they need to know who to call. And because for example, if a veteran's receiving a benefit from the federal VA, a check in the monthly check, if the family doesn't call to shut that down or to make sure they know that you had passed away, those dollars keep flowing in. And at some point, it's going to catch up, and they're going to say, "Oh, sorry, sir, but or ma'am, you owe us $10,000 in back pay. Uh, he passed away 6 months ago, and you're still receiving this money, and no one notified us." So it's important for veterans to leave that information for their families and their spouses. So when something unfortunate happens, they know what to do.
That is very good advice. When my dad passed away, they had everything kind of all in one spot, but there was still a lot that my mom had to navigate. And after she passed away, she found a book on Amazon called well, I don't remember the name of it, but it was to get your affairs in order.
Right.
So I wonder, is there a resource guide like how to prepare? We could talk about that offline.
Yeah, and it's the VA.gov has a resource, a booklet that you can put together for yourself. And
Nice.
again, if people would just go to VA.gov, a lot of resources there, and of course our website, va.alabama.gov. We've got a lot of information, a lot of resources, a lot of benefits available. If they'll just go to our website, a lot of information.
Perfect. Well, if there's one thing that you wish more people across our state understood about the veteran community, we've been talking a lot about what veterans need to know, but I would like to hear, what do just regular people in Alabama need to know about the veteran community? What would it be?
It goes back to what I said before about veterans' mental health. Our veterans are coming home with a lot of issues, PTSD, traumatic brain injury, sleep apnea, just all kind of issues. And it's just important for our civilian community to understand what our veterans are going through, and to just to reach out and help them. And if you know of a veteran going through issues and needs help, again, give us a call. Go to our website. We have a public records request. We have if you want to report something to us, we have that option too on our website. But it's up to the family and friends to see that maybe something's not right, and to let someone know, because it will continue to fester. And next thing you know, we have a casualty on our hands. So just just know that our veterans are going through a lot after what they've been through, and that they need help.
Amen. Amen. And the people closest to us know our baseline. So if you feel like somebody in your circle is a little off, a little different, definitely reach out. Let
Right.
people know, let somebody know.
And most of all, it's okay to reach out, to our
Mm,
veterans. And sometimes our veterans won't reach out.
right.
They don't think they have an issue, but it's okay to reach out.
Be their advocate.
That's right.
Well, Commissioner Newton, thank you for being with us today and for
You're
sharing your
welcome.
perspective
It's
on our
great.
veterans. Well,
Great
as somebody
speaking
who
to you.
served in the Alabama National Guard, your work definitely holds a special place in my heart.
Thank you.
We already talked about your website so people can learn more about your work, but will you say it one more time?
Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs. Our website is va.alabama.gov, where you can call us at 334-242-5077.
Perfect. And if you want more information about Pulse or you want to view more stories like this one, you can go to alabamapulsemagazine.com. If you have any thoughts on who we should interview next or topics we should cover, let us know in the comments. Thanks.